short news of the little achievements of Jacqueline from her gazillion achievements. Let me greet here Jacqueline Prawira. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today.
How are you, Jacqueline?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you for asking me back. I'm good, thank you. It was really great of us to have you around us, and we are so impressed of your achievement, Jacqueline.
Thank you. So to all my fellow student researchers out there, I'd like to say, well, first of all, good evening, and also thank you to ISS, because it is such an honor to be here and be a part of this event where the inspiration and the passion to research and invent come to life for all of us. So again, my name is Jacqueline Prawira, and I'm from California in the USA. So a little bit about myself. I am a self-taught student, researcher, and also a scientist in the making. And I'm an inventor of alternate materials to plastic from various wastes, including my leftover rice, lignocellulosic fibers from garbage, the marine exoskeleton composition, and fish scale waste. And I've been working on this for the past 5 years. In fact, I've been doing science fair for over 8 years now and counting, winning at the regional, national, and international level, including at Regeneron ISF for 2 years. And I even participated in the WISF competition hosted by ISS in 2020. And I was honored then to be one of the grand prize winners and named as Best Scientist. And I am passionate about the environment and working towards making a difference through my own personal reach and also the climate change club that I founded at my school. I even enjoy punching and kicking, as I've practiced Taekwondo and Muay Thai for the past 9 years, and I've earned a second-degree black belt. And I love to curl up with a good book or a pile of them. And I also am an adrenaline junkie through competition as a veteran in science fair, science olympiad, and academic decathlon. So I'd like to share about my latest project, which recently won awards at Regeneron ISF 2021. So my project is called Cycloplast 2, and it's a dual focus development using biomimicry of the fish scale waste composition. In Focus 1, I used the biomineralization concept to valorize 3D printed PLA waste to form a composite material using calcium salts. In Focus 2, I enhanced a thin film from the intact collagenous matrix of fish scales by synthesizing it with chitosan. And all my inventions showed significantly enhanced strength, stability, and environmental degradability in both soil and water. And my project is important because not only has a dual focus, but it also has a dual purpose. By upcycling fish scale waste, it can prevent any additional waste, especially plastic waste, from being produced. And at the same time, its biodegradability and compostability means that we can better integrate our material economy with nature and promote a more circular economy. And in fact, I have some of my prototypes here to share. For example, this thin film I have here from intact collagenous matrix of fish scale waste. This small film can hold 35 pounds of weight. And the high tensile strength of this material shows how it's already viable for many real-world applications, especially the single-use plastics that we use and throw away most often. Some other things I made, in light of this pandemic, I also constructed my own non-medical PPE, which can serve as a splash guard, as a covering for the face and mouth in conjunction with face masks to provide better protection. And inspired actually by a 3D printed face shield operation I conducted this past summer when my community was running out of PPE, I also, from my composite material made from PLA, I constructed my own face shield frame upon which a clear thin film visor would go over. And I mean, what all these prototypes kind of show is that with the applications of plastic that with the variety of applications of plastic that we use nowadays, we're practically living through a pandemic of plastic addiction because our on-the-go lifestyles demand convenience above all else. And plastics tend to be the most convenient option because they're virtually omnipresent in our society. But this makes them nearly invisible to our eyes, so we end up discarding 300 million tons of plastic every year without a single second thought. Yet when we throw all of our garbage away, there is no true away because it all has to go somewhere. Yet the lack of degradability of our waste means it will accumulate in the environment, disrupting the cycle of nature. 60% of all plastics thrown away since the 1950s currently reside in a landfill or the environment. So when I first heard of the dark side of plastics in Science Olympiad, I was horrified, especially considering how I myself have personally contributed. And I immediately began reducing, reusing, and recycling plastic whenever possible. Yet despite my best efforts, I still found myself overwhelmed by the pervasiveness of plastics in my daily life. I found that following the 3 R's alone was insufficient to control this flood of plastic waste, especially since people's old habits die hard, and relying on changing people's psychology alone isn't sufficient to solve the plastic problem. And as a teenager, I definitely have to say that we have too much drama with plastics. Keeping up with plastic is keeping us trapped in this toxic relationship. And I say it's time to break up. Now, nature is the ultimate recycler of materials, and its ability to use the same building blocks to create multitudes of different materials intrigues me. The constant deconstruction and reconstruction of different elements fascinates me with the endless possibilities offered. So when faced with the enormity of the plastic problem, I question, how can we reinvent plastics by implementing biomimicry from nature? And how can we transition faster away from plastics? And this is exactly why I'm passionate about tackling the plastic problem. So in this pandemic, when I was creating this project, I like to share the 2 unexpected yet valuable lessons about researching that I learned from this pandemic. First is the most important character trait I've come to value in being a student researcher, and the second is the most important lesson that I've learned. Now, in any year, my science endeavors are never a smooth sailing experience. But this COVID-19 pandemic has placed more obstacles in my research than ever. In fact, back in 2020, all the competitions I had were pretty much canceled. But in spite of the limitations, I used that time as an opportunity. When my community experienced a shortage of PPE in the summer of 2020, alongside my brother, I initiated a 3D printed face shield project for the community. We reinvested our time to produce 3D printed face shields using our 3D printer and money prizes from previous science competitions. And we provided over 3,000 face shields free of charge after 4.5 months and over 2,100 hours of work printing, assembling, packaging, and delivering our face shields to healthcare workers and vulnerable populations in our area. And our 3D printed face shields were able to bridge the gap in these desperate times, not only impacting those who received them, but also aiding in the fight against the pandemic that was spreading in hospitals and the public. And beyond medical protection, they also help bring a sense of security and hope to frontline workers. And through this project, it allowed my community to become stronger in the midst of adversity by building a support network. And this 3D printed face shield project, in fact, is what inspired my current research. In spite of the pandemic forcing me to work from home and closing school labs, I persevered to make this project a reality. I had the longest research phase yet, lasting 3 whole months, in order to revise my research plan to fit the constraints of working from home. I conducted many workarounds and found alternatives and modifications. And all this delayed the start of my experimentation, so I maximized my time by conducting multiple tests in parallel and using my free time on school days. Yet despite the difficulties, shortcuts are never on the agenda, even though I live in a rural area with limited resources. Because the characteristic of integrity isn't just something you adopt according to your convenience. These are values you should live with all the time. So integrity is the characteristic that I value the most as a student and researcher. In fact, this tower of journals I have here, this is a stack of 4 different journals, and each of them are 2 inches thick, have over 400 pages of all of my careful documentation. These are the careful records of my continued passion and work and solutions to the plastic problem for the past 5 years. And my projects usually take a good 9 months each, with plenty of good research to back it up. And this integrity towards recording every detail is how my inventions have so much originality. This amount of work cannot be copied or rushed or fabricated. And it reflects all the good data, the bad data, the errors, anomalies, and the improvements that I made along the way. Everything is there to see. And this transparency is important because I want my invention to be a reality. So I myself have to stay real. My unaltered data is full of lessons and findings for me to expand upon in the future. And this is important because I am self-taught. My parents aren't scientists or engineers or programmers. And in the real world, cutting-edge fields are messy. And by using the real data and maintaining research integrity, we can open paths to further improvements. So it's not about making the project right now look good. It's about improving it so it can be closer and closer to reality. So this concept of integrity is simple yet powerful. Stay true to yourself in any circumstance, because integrity can nurture trust, and once we can hold ourselves accountable, we become dependable and better able to carry out our research. Now, if you ask me what the most important lesson that I've learned through these many years of science endeavors, I would say that the best lesson that I've learned is that losing at times is necessary to knock us off the beaten path, because the experience of losing has grounded my expectations and goals. Now, I've been doing science fairs since 4th grade, and in the first few years, victory was practically my middle name. But that overconfidence was the beginning of my downfall. And when I lost for the first time at the state competition, it was actually one of the hardest moments for me to go through, even today. But if competition was like my favorite juice, which is a combination of tart beets, sweet pineapple, and spicy ginger, then losing is like the ginger, since spicy food is also very painful for me. But it's that combination of flavors, the tartness, the sweetness, and the spiciness, that makes it a delicious and healthy drink. Both the losing and the ginger are good for me, and they burn just enough to keep me alert and always on my toes. So experiencing loss has definitely humbled me and changed my perspective, and also revealed flaws that I've been ignoring, and it all kind of pointed back to me as a person. And I have to say, with every loss, it's all about accepting that, yes, what happened has already happened. But in order to change the future, we must scrutinize every facet and flaw to understand how to keep optimizing the outcomes. And here I am now, 8 years later, still inventing. Now, ultimately, my competition is myself. And I decided that losing will not stop me from inventing, because the goal of invention is to be a part of the solution. And in my case, that's developing alternate materials to plastic and solving the plastic problem globally. And most importantly, while losing is necessary and yes, inevitable, I don't want to lose to myself in character. I want to become a winner in being a scientist, an inventor, and a better version of me. So the best lesson that I've learned is that only losing can nurture a growth mindset to enable a person to achieve their goals. So in summary, these 2 unexpected yet valuable lessons. First of all, the most important characteristic I value as a student researcher is integrity, which always starts with that solid core of self-integrity, standing your ground against temptations and shortcuts to do the right thing in all circumstances. And the most important lesson that I've ever learned is through losing, because it's the best lesson that I learned, which has enabled me to grow and achieve my goals. And lastly, again, as a fellow student researcher, I want to thank everyone here today for the honor of speaking. And I hope to all my fellow students that we can continue to inspire each other and be inspired. Congratulations to all the participants, and I want you all to know that you all should be proud of your accomplishments. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to keep exploring.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, to share your research and also to share your experience, Jacqueline. It was really great of us to be able to invite you here. Jacqueline, I heard that the competitions, the ISEF is one of the most prestigious competitions for scientists in the world. So how do you feel after joining in that competition, Jacqueline?
I mean, I will definitely say the first time was combination of a dream come true and also kind of like it feels unreal to be at that level. But I can say that when I attended ISEF for the very first time, it was very inspiring and moving to see so many fellow scientists from all over the world, including from Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, China, Zimbabwe, Chile, pretty much from all over the world, and seeing how we all came together with pretty much one common purpose, is that we want our own passions and our research to make a difference in this world. And I mean, that feeling, and I think the feeling I get from pretty much any competition and seeing my fellow student researchers is part of what drives me to keep that spirit of innovation and exploration.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. And we have one question from Delma Flores from Mexico. She said, what is your vision to your project this year? What have been the main obstacles for the project in the pandemic year?
Yes. So my most recent project, as I mentioned, focused on developing two different materials at once using biomimicry of the fish scale waste composition, both the thin film material and the composite material from 3D printed PLA waste. And I mean, for that project, I'd say the biggest obstacles were definitely having to modify pretty much all of my experimentation so it could be done safely in a home environment, because due to the stay-at-home orders ordered by my local area, I was unable to access the school labs, which were closed, and even other labs that I reached out to were not open to the public. So sort of engineering my own solutions and workarounds to that challenge is definitely the biggest challenge, but also in a way it helped shape my project to become what it is. Because if you think about it, if I'm able to manufacture my materials in even just a home environment, that means that the procedure for sourcing the material and for creating my materials is also very safe and easier to implement in pretty much any circumstance at any level of resources. And that's actually an inspiring point for me, because it means it's getting closer and closer to potentially being able to manufacture on a larger scale and hopefully go into the market.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you so much for the explanation. And we still have another questions from Keisha Eleora through me to direct message. She's going to ask you about what helps you to always stay motivated even when you have to face the hard situation. And besides joining a competition, how to introduce our research and invention to the public.
Yeah. So the first question, what keeps me motivated? What keeps me motivated in science in general is that I've always loved learning, and reading books is a part of it, but um, I usually get curious about things, and I always want to find out why. Um, and I found that getting into science and STEM is one of the ways that I can answer my own questions through my own hands-on experience. Um, and when it comes to the plastic problem, which is what my research is focusing on, I'd say part of it comes from personal responsibility that I feel, because I myself have contributed to the plastic problem, and I'm sure pretty much all of us have. And I feel that it's my duty to do my part to offset my own environmental footprint, and help future generations live in a cleaner and healthier environment, and hopefully have a better quality of life. And then as for your second question, introducing my research to other places other than competitions. For me, I know my primary exposure has been through competitions, but I definitely say, if you, this varies depending on your location, but if you can reach out to, if you have any teachers, professors that have contacts with scientific organizations of any sort, reaching out to them would be a good idea, if you want to gain exposure. And of course, never underestimate the power of a good mentorship, because even just that one person's perspective, they can take a step back and tell you areas where you can improve, and the strengths of your project, as a third person, which is, I think, which is very crucial to pretty much any project, I think, towards improving it.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you so much. We get another questions from Vio Renata. She's gonna ask you about what is your biggest dream in future?
My most ambitious dream is definitely being able to solve the plastic problem by having the inventions I've been working on and the ones I will be working on in the future, to essentially become a reality, a real marketable product that makes a significant difference in our plastic consumption, and therefore the amount of plastic waste entering our environment. And I know it sounds I know it sounds pretty ambitious, just one person trying to solve the plastic problem, but my hope is that there is more people like me out there, that are all passionate, and we can all sort of come together in the end in contributing towards solving this problem very soon, so that hopefully in our lifetime, we all can benefit from a cleaner environment. In fact, the previous speaker I know mentioned the milestone of 2050. By 2050, actually, plastic will outnumber fish in the ocean at current rates of plastic consumption. And I kind of want to be able to beat that milestone and prevent it from happening. It's definitely a lot of work ahead, but I think not just for the plastic problem, but in any field, the environment and other fields in STEM, I just want to be able to make a difference. So, yeah.
All right, Jacqueline. We have last questions from Mr. Muhammad Humran. He said that, did the environment where do you live help you to improve your innovations? If so, what's the challenge?
Yeah. I'd say so. My inspiration comes from a combination of nature and the environment, yes, and also from my everyday lifestyle, actually. The environment, I've been studying earth sciences and the environment for many years now, so I'm naturally very invested into it. But at the same time, let's say take my most recent project, the prototypes that I just showed you, which is sourced from fish scale waste. I was actually inspired to use fish scale waste because in my own diet, we eat a lot of fish and we go to the fish market regularly. And it was at the fish market that I noticed, hey, there's a lot of fish waste being produced, including fish scales, which we obviously don't eat. And that initial interest is what got me researching into the structure and composition of fish scales. And that's what gave me the inspiration to implement biomimicry of its composition in developing my current project. I mean, challenges every year, I will say, it because every year is a brand new canvas essentially. And being able to, I guess, settle between that combination of the big picture of what that big goal, big picture of what I want, and also, okay, what resources do I have in order to achieve that goal is definitely always sort of I guess it's a balancing act between the two whenever it comes to creating my research projects. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for sharing with us. And also, it really motivates us and also will give us more innovations and motivation to do the research, Jacqueline. And we all do hope that your research in plastic or another research in your field, in other field, can be successfully and reach, and you can get more achievements, Jacqueline. Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you so much to all of you again for listening to me talk. It was really an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Stay healthy. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your
Stay
time.
healthy.